This is Ramon Abbas, known as Hushpuppi, one of the biggest scammers in the world. Before he was arrested in 2020, everyone thought he was a real estate developer, and he was a very famous influencer on social media. He really loved to show off his success and everything he had. For many people, he started becoming an idol, and that's not surprising because he went from zero in Nigeria to a multi-million-dollar business in Dubai. At first sight, his story was very inspiring. However, his downfall came after years of investigation, and a single picture he published on his Instagram destroyed his scamming empire. This is the story of Hushpuppi. Ramon Abbas was born in 1982 in a small town in Nigeria, where he grew up in a very poor family. Seeing his family struggle in life, he began to dream of having millions of dollars and owning big luxury cars. He started working on his dream when he discovered the internet, even though it was very limited in his country at that time. Somehow, he managed to gain access to the internet and started searching for ways to make money, ultimately choosing a very criminal path. He joined an email scammer gang and soon became a professional in this field, eventually becoming the best in his gang at scamming people and rising to the position of leader. Despite being the best at these scams, he realized that emailing hundreds of people a day and hoping to steal a few dollars was far from his dream of becoming a millionaire. He changed his strategy and built up a new team, but this time the main targets were not individuals but businesses, most of the time American businesses like factories, law firms, and even small banks. And this new strategy worked. It worked so well that after a few months, he and his team started making thousands of dollars weekly. Unfortunately for him, at this time there were many email scamming gangs in Nigeria, and the government began cracking down on these gangs. He grabbed all the money he had made and flew to Malaysia. At this time, everyone who knew him thought that he was going to study in Malaysia. But in reality, he flew to Malaysia to scale up his scamming business. This was the first time he had unlimited access to the internet and tools he could use for his scams, which was a huge upgrade for him. Pretty quickly, he built up a new team, and now with all his knowledge about scamming and unlimited access to the internet, he started making more money than he had ever made in Nigeria. After a few months of making a lot of money, he reached a point where he was not satisfied with just having money. He wanted to show that he was making money. Having a lot of money without others knowing was not his dream. He wanted to own luxury cars and show everyone that he was making a lot of money. So, he decided to create Instagram and Snapchat accounts and started posting about his luxury life. He marketed himself as a real estate developer, and no one asked how he got into real estate. Everyone just fell in love with his lifestyle. After a few years, his social media blew up, and everyone saw him as a successful businessman who had made millions from scratch. But again, he reached a point where he was not very satisfied with making only a few $1 million a year, so he started looking for even more. Perfectly at this time, he met Ismaila Mustafa, known as Mamfa, who played a big role in scams and money laundering. He introduced him to new opportunities and gave him the idea to move to Dubai, the paradise of luxury living. So he flew to Dubai, and again he built up a new scammer gang, but this time it was huge, 10 times bigger, and Hushpuppi started making up to $5 million per week with his scams. This is where things started becoming really flashy. He began posting more and more about all the luxury things he now owns, like a Brabus, Lamborghini, Bentley, and even flying with a private jet. He also loves to post about his luxury shopping sprees. Luxury brands started noticing his success, and they began collaborating with him. Versace, Burberry, Louis Vuitton, and Fendi were among them. These collaborations were so successful that Fendi decided to surprise him with a cake for his birthday. The cake featured a little figure of him next to a bunch of Fendi bags. Of course, he loved this and posted it to his Instagram account. And this was a big mistake, where his downfall began. While Hushpuppi was living his luxury life, all these years the FBI was also investigating these scams. They managed to trace the investigations back to Hushpuppi's friend Mamfa. They arrested him and he broke down, telling them that he was alone behind these scams. But the FBI couldn't believe this, and while checking his phone, they noticed that he was Snapchatting a lot with Hushpuppi. At this time, they had no idea who this man was and what he did, and there was no other connection between Mamfa and Hushpuppi, because they were smart. They only chatted through Snapchat, so the FBI couldn't find out if he was also involved in the scamming and money laundering scheme. While checking out Hushpuppi's Instagram profile, they noticed the birthday cake that Fendi sent him, and now they had a starting point. They decided to do a deeper investigation. After knowing his birthday, they found a really old visa application he had submitted to the US many years ago, and now they had all his personal information. So now, knowing his real identity, they started surveilling him, and pretty quickly it came out that he was the leader of these scams. They rushed into his apartment and arrested him and 10 others from his team. They confiscated $40 million in cash, 47 smartphones, 21 laptops, and 13 luxury cars. At this time, they had scammed more than 1 million businesses and made over $500 million. In 2020, they extradited him to the US, where he was sentenced to over 11 years in federal prison. This marks the end of the story of the biggest scammer in history. Don't forget to subscribe.